When I read the book, I thought to myself, having spent some time with you in years past, I could literally hear you saying the words to me as I read them.
Well, that's probably the most important thing for me to hear, thank you, because I had never written before, maybe 200-300 words for an introduction. I'm not academic, I had little education, so I was not really prepared for this, but the one thing I had an ambition about was that my voice would be recognized. I didn't want to sound like somebody else. Apart from that, it would make people think, well, he hasn't written it. You know, that's not him.
I love it. It's definitely written in your voice. What made you want to write this book?
Oh, I had no desire to write this book.
Really?
Absolutely none. I have been an avid reader since the age of 5. I devoured books. We lived very modestly, my family and I, in what was called a one-up, one-down. One room downstairs, the door opened straight into the living room, no kitchen, no bathroom, no toilet, no hot water. But it was home, and it gave me the feeling that I wanted something a little bit better than that. And I think that was a driving part of my ambition. But writing a book was never part of it. Perhaps because I was too familiar with great books. I knew I couldn't do that. So I just tried to create a conversation.
You are very proud of your sort of working class beginnings. I mean, you've done everything from, you sold furniture as a young man, you were a junior reporter in Muirfield at a city newspaper, and it was there that a young editor, Margaret Court, told you what your destiny should be, what you should be doing instead of what you were doing.
Yes. It had been said to me before. My English teacher, Cecil Dormand, who, along with Ruth Winnow, to whom the book is dedicated, because those two people had the biggest impact on my shifting my life from a working class boy with very little prospect to a person getting acting training with far cleverer people than I was. So I could pick up things from them, little by little.
Let's talk about the role that sort of put you on the map here in the United States. Many in the entertainment industry didn't think that Star Trek: The Next Generation would be successful. Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, I mean, the first time he met you, basically kicked you out of his house. Ian McKellen said, "Don't take the role, Patrick. Do not take this role." I mean, what do you think of the show's success now?
Well, just to protect Ian
okay.
a little bit, he did say that, but it was not because he thought the role was the wrong thing, so much as he knew that I had a line of stage work coming up, and that it was very important stage work, and for the first time, my career was now beginning to edge its way into being a leading actor. And he said, "Don't turn your back on that now. You're almost there." And I said, "Well, my hope is that they'll wait until I've had a go at this, you know."
Yeah.
But I didn't believe in it to begin with. And certainly acknowledging Gene, may he rest in peace, that he had not wanted me, ever. He was talked into employing me by the other producers.
With all the wonderful things you've accomplished, you write in the book that your 2 failed marriages are your greatest regret. You're now happily married to Sonny, who I've had the pleasure of meeting. What would you say now, looking back, is the key to a successful relationship? Have you figured that out yet?
I haven't put it into words before, but let me have a go at it. I think it's being open and a good listener, and to make a connection. You don't have to be exactly the same, but it's necessary that you can share. I think it's very important. So sharing and respecting.
Sir Patrick Stewart, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, and thank you so much to everyone for the invitation again. I'm delighted to be here.
Elle Key and her husband, that would be Emmy winner, Keegan-Michael Key, join us both. Hello, Elle Key and your husband.
Good morning, Vlad.
Welcome. I know it's so hard because this book is part memoir, part history.
Yeah.
I know it's a combination of all sorts of things. Part what's happening in real life. But I want to start because there's a line in the book where you say, Keegan, that comedy is really, I want to get this right, not just part of your profession, but part of your soul.
Yes.
That stood out to me. How
Yeah.
so?
It's part of how I breathe, and the biggest thing I think for me is that it's how it affects other people.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you're giving joy to others and you're sharing joy with others. You know.
And comedy brought you two together, sort of, kind of, Elle, wouldn't you say? How so? Because you have a background, too, in comedy.
Yeah, I grew up in a very funny family that liked to tell good, hard jokes, we call them, like jokes with setups and punchlines. And as a kid, was lucky enough to spend some time in the Catskills and saw some pretty amazing comedy greats. And then worked on a sketch show in college, been working in the industry a long time. And when we first met, we were talking about things that we both liked in humor and talking about projects that we liked and what we liked about them and how we had similar senses of humor and liked certain turns or certain things that went a certain way or wordplay.
Yeah.
And the two of us kind of just geeked out on the science of comedy at the very first, real meeting.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, that's what I love about this book, too. And Gayle, you said it. I mean, you said, Elle, that it will help readers gain a deeper appreciation, a deeper understanding of comedy. And we were talking in the green room. I was saying to you both that as a child, I used to love watching Jack Benny, who is featured in the book.
Right.
That great bit where a mugger approaches him and says, "Your money or your life," and Benny, is... I'm thinking. I'm thinking, right?
I'm thinking.
You used to like Jack Benny?
Oh my gosh, Gayle! I mean, we were geeking out
I was just
over
telling
that.
him I couldn't believe
Saturday
it. It was like
morning.
Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. You watch Abbott and Costello.
Oh my gosh.
And you draw a direct line from that. You say that Jack Benny created this persona. He valued his money more than his life. He was cheap. You draw a direct line to Jimmy Kimmel and Matt Damon in this long-running feud that they have, which I didn't know was a bit. Even the statement, Elle, that they give you for the book, I asked you in the green room, I said, was this a bit or is that a real statement?
It's a real statement. It's a real statement. Well, it wasn't, he didn't come up with it, right? He was in response.
It was in response to his colleague, Fred Allen.
So Fred Allen made a joke about it, and he was like, fine, you want to pretend I'm cheap? I'm going to play I'm cheap, and I'm going to get back at you by saying, not only I'm going to embrace it, and he made it his own.
So that's what's in this book,
Yes.
these lessons.
Yeah, what do you want people to know about sketch comedy? Because I'm not sure people really understand. You tell a great story in the book about when you were little and you heard your dad laugh at Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
First time you heard him.
The first time I
first
heard
time you
my
heard him
dad
laugh, you said,
really
I wanna
belly
do this,
laugh
yeah.
was at Eddie Murphy. And during a sketch where Eddie Murphy was doing an impersonation of Stevie Wonder.
I remember that,
And
yes.
it was, do you remember that sketch?
Yes,
Of course we do.
Because it's like, is that inappropriate? Is that inappropriate? Is that okay to do? But you knew I want to do that. Sketch comedy is what? What is it exactly?
I think part of it is that it's one of the shorter art forms, and the fact that that you can tell a whole story, a beginning, a middle, and an end, in 3 to 5 minutes is really an extraordinary thing, and it's an art form that's different than anything else we see. You know, TV shows are an hour, movies are 2 hours, but there's something about the digestible morsel that is a sketch.
I like, too, what you all talk about race, putting the race in race. You've got one thing about calling all colors and the importance of that.
Yeah, that was good.
Don't you like
Yeah,
how you go white, 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 Desi Arnaz, white, 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 Flip Wilson, white, 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 Dave Chappelle. What is the point you all are making there, Elle?
That the comedy for so long has been very, very, let's say,
Vanilla.
Everyone kind of fit in the same lane.
Yes.
And so that along the way there have been these little kind of pops of different kinds of people from different perspectives. And right now, more and more, certainly with the internet and all the people that can put out content, we're getting content from
all different perspectives.
But Gayle, you said something interesting. You said that, is that inappropriate? You write that you want to write comedy where people go, that's too much. I can't handle that.
I can't believe they went there.
I can't believe they went there.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Do you like that kind of comedy, Gayle, when you see,
Yes,
you're like,
yes, I actually
you do, yeah.
But you say anything is fair game in comedy as long as what?
As long as you come at it at the right angle. And sometimes that's the work, that's the craft in the journey of the art and craft of humor. The craft is finding the right way into a joke. Because you can make anything funny. You can talk about religion, you can talk about politics, as long as you find, and it takes a while, but as long as you find the right way in, the right angle.
I like what you talk about Key and Peele. You said you guys are bonded for life, that you will always be very tight, because that gave us some of the best humor.
Oh my gosh.
I still like
Oh my
Mr.
gosh.
Garvey to this
Mr.
day.
Garvey is our hero.
One of the things that we talk about in the book is that Mr. Garvey, one of the reasons why it's so popular is it's a sketch that has a game in it.
Yes.
And the game is to try to figure out what he's going to say and try to, oh, I know what D-nice means, or I know what this, and get ahead of it.
Yes.
And we both have a huge affinity for sketches that have some kind of game that you get to figure out so the audience at home goes, wait, I figured it out, I know what the next thing is, and that's the fun part.
But I'm curious, how would Mr. Garvey say Vlad? How would Mr. Garvey say Klaus?
Oh, you mean Vlad? Vlad Kilaus?
How would he say
It's Vlad Kilaus up in here.
Okay, I like it. They said I gotta go. How would he say Tony and Nate? Then I'm going.
Tony, how they say Tony and Nate?
Yeah.
You mean Nate? Tony and Nate?
Thank you, Elle Key.
Thank you very much for being here.
Total pleasure to be here.
You can write about just about anything and make it interesting, and you have your choice of subjects because you are who you are. Tell us why you found Sam Bankman-Fried both interesting enough, worthy of your attention, but also, for the people who are in doubt, important enough.
Oh my God. So this goes back 2 years. A friend called me out of the blue and said, will you evaluate this person for me because I'm about to do a business deal with him. He's the richest person in the world under 30, and no one knows who he is.
People are saying he might be the world's first trillionaire at that point.
Yes, and I never heard of him. Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX. He shows up on my front porch, and I take him for a walk. 2 hours later, I turned to him and I said, my jaw was on the ground. I don't know where this is going, but I just want to watch. He had set out 8 years before to make money, to give it away, essentially to attack the existential risk to humanity. But he was earning to give was the idea.
Yeah.
And starting with basically zero was now worth $22.5 billion and was stress testing like all the systems in the world, American media, American politics, philanthropy. I mean, he just lit up. He was teaching us about the world, how it worked, just by his mere existence.
Yeah.
Like money had never been made that fast in history.
That friend who asked you to kind of kick the tires on who this guy was, I believe you recommended that, the guy do make the investment in the company.
I was so excited by this character that I called him and I said, yeah, do it, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Well, we're still talking about whether I belong in management consulting.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you guys still friends? But this is the thing. I was fascinated by your take on him. You describe him as he was a big gamer, and he looked less like a crypto tycoon than a first grader who needed to pee. You talk about his legs shaking all the time. He wore crumpled shorts and walked around in socks. His parents said he was never comfortable with being a kid, was never comfortable with kids. He was peculiar, you said. What was your take? And he judged everything by calculation.
So here's
what was your thing with him?
So when I first asked him, give me a list of people that knew you before the age of 18 who could tell me about what you were like. And he said, there's nobody.
Nobody.
His childhood was so isolated. And in childhood, he was like he was born with a grown-up mind, and he was just waiting for everybody else to grow up so they could talk to him. And childhood made no sense to him. But then what's also odd is when he gets to be a grown-up, he reads as a kid. That, he's at age 30, he's in shorts and T-shirt, and he has all the mannerisms of a little kid.
But what do you mean, Michael, that everything
he's
was
never
like...
really in place in society. He's never connected to other people.
But everything was a calculation, you said, for him. I found that, and what does that mean, a calculation for him?
He would be the first to admit that he figured out from a very young age that he wasn't born with a normal complement of human feelings.
Yeah.
Like empathy, just didn't have it. The oddest thing he couldn't do was make facial expressions. So he realized, at some point in childhood that people weren't relating to him because when you said something that was supposed to be funny, he didn't pretend to laugh, And so he had to learn how to pretend to laugh. He, in front of a mirror, taught himself facial expressions.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is kind of decoding the way people are so he can fit in. And you see him in the story, like getting better and better at projecting as a normal person when the mechanisms behind it are not normal at all.
On the 60 Minutes sit down, what I found fascinating was that analogy about the casino, going from gambler to owning the casino.
Yep.
Sounds good in theory, until we all realize that the slot machines are rigged, or allegedly rigged. You say that you have doubts in the prosecution's case. Why do you have doubts?
So I didn't intend to set out, I'm not his lawyer. And
of course not.
No, I intended to put the reader in the position of the jury. I said, look, you're going to hear stories in the courtroom. 2 stories. It's a story war. Defense is going to tell one story, use one set of facts. Prosecution is going to tell another story, use another set of facts. This is a much better story, and it's got all the facts in it. And when all the facts are in it and they're in context, I'll put it this way, that the people who have the most doubt about his intent to defraud are the people who know the most.
And some of them are supposedly witnesses against
The
him.
closer you get to it, the more mysterious it is.
But how do you explain he has $8 billion, though?
You don't, no. Clearly, look,
Yeah.
clearly, there $8 billion, it was more than $10 billion,
Okay.
which was supposed to be in the exchange.
In the exchange.
Was in his private hedge fund.
Yes. And he's
Now,
a smart guy, Michael.
Yeah.
Michael, but this book began with you taking him for a walk to figure him out. Is it possible along the way that at some point he took you for a walk?
I'm not dumb.
Okay, I know.
And not only that, I have all the facts available to. I mean, I got to grill him left, right, and center.
Yeah.
I got to grill all the people around him left, right, and center.
But Michael, that's a good question. What's your answer? I like that.
Yeah, and a
Were
good
you-
con doesn't
yeah.
let you know he's a con.
Right.
But
I'm not calling him one. I'm just saying.
So it's an easier story to tell if you just say he's a con man. If it's a simple con, if it's like the Bernie Madoff story, it's clearly not that. It's a little hard to get across in 2 minutes of conversation. A lot of complicated details we need to get into.
Right.
But I mean, just the questions. A lot of it doesn't make sense. A lot of
Kind of like crypto.
Yeah.
Kinda like
Here's a
crypto.
yes or no question. Is crypto bullpucky?
First, you got to explain what bullpucky is.
I think we know. I think we know.
Do we know? Well, so crypto it's interesting because there's a technology under it that's interesting, and however, it's always been this solution in search of a problem.
Yeah.
Like it's unclear what it's for is the problem.
I'm going to take that as we'll have to talk about it in the commercial. Lewis, thank you very much.
We're going to begin this hour with an interview you'll see only on CBS Mornings, and we love when that can happen, so I'm going to say it again. Only on CBS Mornings, actor Bellamy Young, best known for shows like Scandal and The Other Black Girls, opening up for the very first time about the impact of chronic liver disease on her family. So Bellamy's father had cirrhosis, which led to a chronic liver condition known as HE. Now, that had devastating effects on his brain. It's a great picture. 30 million Americans have some form of liver disease. Nearly 1 in 5 have a chronic condition, which for many leads to HE. It can produce symptoms like extreme personality changes, disorientation, confusion and uncoordinated movements, and inappropriate behavior. And Bellamy joins us at the table. We're glad you're here because I'd never heard of HE until this meeting yesterday when they told us that you were coming on.
I'm so grateful to have this time with you guys because that's how it is. This affects so many people in America and across the world. And a lot has changed. There's a lot of information to know. We can find out how to handle this condition, and no one's having this conversation. So I'm very, very grateful to be here with you.
So how did it affect your family? We should say your dad died when you were 15.
He did,
So-
so it was a bit of a time ago.
Yeah.
But we felt very isolated and alone. There wasn't a lot of information. Even our doctor couldn't really help us. So he was diagnosed very late because we didn't know what to look for. We never imagined, after a diagnosis of cirrhosis, which is a severe form of chronic liver disease, we never imagined that a liver disease could affect your cognition and your behavior. So we didn't even know what to keep our eyes open for. And now that's why I partnered with Salix, and I'm hoping I can encourage everyone to look at a website called understandinghe.com because you can find out about the symptoms, you can notice them
But how did
early.
it show itself,
Yeah, let's talk
Bellamy?
about
Because
that.
I'm trying to figure out
yes.
exactly what I still don't understand what was happening in your house.
Yeah.
Yes. So, well, at the time, I was young, and so a lot of this annoyed me as things annoy teenagers. So maybe a change in the smell of his breath, and I'd be like, he's drinking in the daytime. Or he'd forget to pick me up from school, and I'd be like, oh, great, forgot to pick me up. But when things became progressively worse, like one night he forgot how to get home from the job he'd had forever, and we thought, okay, that's... Is something
bad.
That's bad.
going on? But at that point, he was in a very, what they call overt hepatic encephalopathy. And what happens with hepatic encephalopathy, or HE, is the toxins in your liver, they sort of back up in your bloodstream until they get to your brain, and they cause disorientation, and they cause a lack of coordination, and a lot of different, very obvious symptoms if you know what you're looking for. But we didn't know, so we didn't catch it.
Was this tied to alcohol use?
His diagnosis of cirrhosis was because of alcohol use, but you know, severe chronic liver disease can be caused by so many things.
Yeah. It seems like at one point you came to a realization about these things that were going on because you weren't aware.
Yeah.
When did you come to this, realization, and how did you come to the point where you wanted to talk about it?
Well, we came to the realization very late, and that is exactly why I want to talk about it, because so much has changed. Now there is information, people understand this disease and how to treat it and how to walk along the path, but most of all, how to recognize it when it's happening to the person that you love, because as a person who's sick, or as a caregiver, it's just agonizing to watch, and you can get in front of it. If you talk to your doctor, you can plan a path forward. And also to have community, we felt very alone. So just to feel like there are other people out there to talk to who can help you have great conversations with your doctor.
Do you think there's a stigma because of the association with alcohol? Is that why you think people don't talk about it?
That's a good question.
I do think
Yeah.
so. I think people get embarrassed about liver disease, but it affects like 30 million people in America. And that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we need to release the stigma
Especially
and
for
enhance
people-
the education.
Bellamy, like us, who have never heard about it. Thank you, Bellamy.
Yeah,
thank you so
very
much for coming here.
And that website again for people who want to check that out?
UnderstandingHE.com.
All right, very good. Thank you very much for bringing
Thank
awareness to
you.
this. Appreciate it.
We're going so fast!
A master of improv on Whose Line Is It Anyway? And he outfoxed them all to win The Masked Singer. Wayne Brady's versatility is dazzling.
The sex is in the heel, even if you break it.
Yet the game show host with a megawatt smile has long struggled with anxiety and depression. Now, at the age of 51, Brady is coming to terms with his sexuality.
I look at it as being able to love whomever I want, no matter the vessel. I never spoke about it before because, especially my generation, our generation, you were raised to suffer in silence. Whatever your truth is, you should be able to feel like you walk in that daily because that's the only way to really be free.
But you also are a private person.
Yeah.
Just by nature. So why did you feel like you even needed to talk about, your sexuality?
Because it goes part and parcel with the mental health piece.
Got it.
I'm saying it is very possible for me to be attracted to the man because of the person. And I can be attracted to this beautiful woman like you because of the person.
Right.
But then again, there may be a non-binary person, and I'm free to do that.
When you called and told me, I was a little scared for you because I do know that society will put people in a box.
Absolutely. I had that fear the entire time. So many of my family and friends who are gay, who are lesbian, my nieces who are trans, they walk outside every day and they live their real truth. If by me just speaking my truth and saying, hey, this is what I like and this is who I am, if that can help in any way, shape, or form, then I'm mad I didn't do it earlier.
From 1999 to 2008, Brady was married to Mandy Takeda. They have a daughter, Miley.
And it breaks my heart to say, Mom and Daddy's moving on. But
He wrote the song You and Me about the emotional turmoil of his divorce. Takeda and Miley played themselves in the music video.
And though things have changed, one thing remains.
Singing about remaining a family despite the separation, Takeda was the first person he came out to and remains his best friend. These days, they share a blended family. One thing that I have known about you is how much you've wanted to love and be in a relationship, but how you've struggled with it.
I think it's the trusting piece.
Okay.
The self-trusting piece. Admitting that I had a mental health journey to go on to, admitting that there is a such thing as clinical depression and as anxiety, and that opened the door to what are you not doing in all of these relationships. Because one time, 2 times, maybe the other person's a problem. 3 times, 4 times, 10 years, 20, maybe the other person is not the problem. Maybe that person is not the problem. You are the problem. Me? Yes, you.
Brady reveals he's not yet dating anyone and will continue working on himself so he's ready for romance in the future.
Me coming out and saying that I may identify as pansexual still doesn't stop me from being the dopest host on TV.
Come on now.
And doing what I do.
Better brush
Still
it
doesn't
off.
stop me from being amazing at my jobs.
Yes.
Doesn't. In fact, if anything, I feel even better because I'm lighter.
Sun goes up, sun goes down, takes all kinds to make this world go round.
When TJ and John Osborne went into the studio to record their new album, they did so with a new producer, Mike Elizondo.
He's got like every toy like you could imagine in the world in the studio, and of course you walk in, you're like, we need to use everything, and we nearly did.
Elizondo's early roots were actually in hip-hop.
When
you started with Dr. Dre, how did you end up in country?
That's a good question,
yeah.
I'd like to know this myself,
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. Music is, I never really looked at it as genres.
Were there any kind of, I know this is a little weird, but try this moments?
Yeah, I think there were quite a few.
He was like the third brother in the room, and that was constantly pushing us.
The only thing that's staying the same in all of this is the 2 of us.
Yeah.
And so by the end of there, I was like, wow, we really do. We have a thing. I don't really know how to describe it or what it is, but I can hear it now.
The new album, titled simply Brothers Osborne, is actually their 4th record.
But in some ways, it feels like a debut album.
It does, yeah. It feels like a fresh start in a lot of ways for us. I mean, we've shared so much of ourselves publicly in the past few years.
Sun goes up, sun goes down.
In 2021, TJ came out.
What's up, y'all? Happy Pride!
Becoming the first openly gay artist on a major country music label.
Nobody's nobody.
And John revealed he'd battled anxiety so severe that he'd almost quit music.
It's scary, but upon doing that, we realized how much love and support there actually is.
Who says you can't have everything?
TJ and John live in Nashville,
Definitely, if you go down there, you need to not be afraid of snakes.
just a few miles apart along the Cumberland River.
Now she's the finger that you wrapped around. She's whatever country song's about. She's the trouble that you loved before. She gonna take you down, leaving coming back for more. That man's good, that man's good.
The reigning ACM and CMA Vocal Duo of the Year
That man's good, that man's good.
have been singing together since they were kids in Maryland. But they haven't always been in harmony.
So you went through couples therapy together?
We did, yeah. Because there was a time where things were heated between us, and we could hardly even be in the same room with one another. And we.
How long ago was that?
It was
4 years ago, maybe?
probably around there, yeah, 3-4 years ago.
How do you make that decision?
Well, we really made that decision because it had gotten so bad, and we knew, like, this isn't healthy, you know.
At the very least, if we keep on with this, the band's over. That's the least of our problem. The biggest problem is he's my brother, and I love him, and he's my best friend, and that, you know, we're very close. That's the biggest problem. Like, we would lose each other as brothers, you know.
Did you find it worked pretty quickly?
I worked very quickly.
Very quickly,
You know,
actually,
the one thing about us, though, is when we were kids, we would fight very fast. We would blow it up, and then within 10 minutes, we're like, hey, man, you want to go play some video games? All right, cool. So we've always been like that. Yeah.
Life has settled down for the Grammy-winning duo.
We belong to the light, we belong to the thunder.
TJ is in a relationship with his partner, Abby Ventura.
Love you. I love you too.
And John and his wife, singer-songwriter Lucy Silvas, just had twins.
It's Arthur and Maybell.
Arthur and Maybell.
They're going to be 6 months old in about 2 days.
Brother and sister are already being prepared for the family business.
He is a lovely boy, his name is Arthur. He likes to play with toys, his name is Arthur.
When she sings, they just smile. They're like, oh, when I sing, they're like,
Things up, somebody gotta shut things down.
In the studio, Elizondo encouraged John and TJ to experiment and crank the volume in the control room.
he listens loud, by the way.
Oh yeah, well,
I
that's,
mean, it
that's
is
the
like,
Dre days coming back.
holy moly, it's loud in there. It's really fun.
TJ, who usually handles vocals and plays acoustic, went electric with his brother on the album.
I don't know that I've played electric on any of the songs before. You know, it's like, why would I? You know, it's like, I'm just like, please, God, John, no, do not. You do
I
it,
prefer
please.
the spotlight.
I don't know.
I've worked too hard for this.
Anytime I play electric guitar, I always refer to myself as like the ginger on the sushi platter. It's like, you know, I'm like, now you can really get context on what like a really great guitar player. Like, I can play guitar, but I'm like, this is what an average guy sounds like. That's what a guitar player
I'm the
does.
ginger playing guitar.
When I am winter, you are summer. When I am autumn, you are spring.
Elizondo, who's worked with everyone from Eminem to the Jonas Brothers, says he saw something special in John and TJ.
Above all, me just being a music nerd, I just knew they're badass musicians and can write songs. And you'd be surprised how few of them are.
I don't know if Anthony is probably surprised by that.
No, you know,
actually.
So for me,
But it's nice to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Arlo Parks joins us right now. Good morning. How you doing?
Morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm
seem
good.
to be good.
Thank you for joining us. This collection of poetry is deeply personal, and as you read it, you can feel it. Why did you decide to share this work publicly, and how does this compare to your music?
Yeah, so I've been writing poetry since I was about maybe 11 or 12. And I think, as you say, it was very much my own personal refuge. It was this thing that I did for myself, by myself. And I think recently, you know, touring a lot, I was reading a lot and being so moved by what I was reading. And I just wanted to be able to do that for other people. And I think that's what gave me the courage to finally kind of share this and create this book.
Yeah.
You talk about, Arlo, about poetry has a chaotic magic to you. And I like the phrasing of that. But you also talk about having a paper bag of burrata and anchovies. You lost me on that one. I'm like, does that taste good? Does that taste good? But talk about poetry having a chaotic magic to you.
Yeah.
You're a very visual writer, too. What do
Yes.
you mean? Didn't you think?
Every poem is like a
visual.
scene.
Yeah.
That you
I
take the
can see
reader
it.
in.
Exactly. I take a lot of influence from cinema. And I think just from observing, I think that if you look out at the world, there is this real sense of magic to it. And I think my process is very chaotic. It's very much kind of pulling fragments from the characters around me and my past and nostalgia and the things I observe. And there's something quite beautiful about that to me, I think, when I approach my poems in this kind of whirlwind, very emotional
Stream of consciousness that
Exactly.
you're allowing us to enjoy the ride as well. When you write, it seems like it's therapeutic.
I was going to say that.
For the reader, but it has to be therapeutic for you. What is it like releasing this and how you have been feeling about yourself?
Yeah, it's exactly as you say, it feels so cathartic. I think especially being able to actually speak to fans and people who have read the book and maybe been inspired to, you know, pick up writing themselves, or, you know, like people who wanted to write for 20 years being like, okay, I finally have the courage to do it now.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of gives me a sense of purpose and just makes me feel like my thoughts and my feelings that I kind of put together in my bedroom are actually having a wider impact on the world.
I was going to pick up on what Nate said, because I thought that too, that it must be healing. Bruiseless. I wish I was bruiseless. Almost everyone that I love has been abused, and I am included in that. So it seems to me this would be very healing to write about, to sing about. What do you hope people will get out of your book?
Yeah, I think I want it to be a relief. I want it to be something that people can read and see themselves in. And I want it to be something that people can read and be like, oh, I should get this for my sister, I should get this for, you know, my partner. It be something that, you know, people carry through with them on their journeys and share with people they love.
And you and Phoebe Bridgers together, I like that combination.
Yes, no, we met a while ago, we met like maybe 4 years ago. And we've been kind of crossing paths and singing together at music festivals, and finally came together for my song Pegasus, which was really special. She's like a really special person.
What is your advice to those who want to start writing?
I guess just start. Just trust your voice and start. I think the hardest thing is very much, being like, I want to write, but maybe not quite having the courage to kind of put those first few words on the page. So I think just start and trust your voice.
And you started, I love your accent. You started at 11.
Honorary Brit.
Being this transparent
at 11.
is easy, so thank you for this work. It is helpful to the reader.
Amy Schneider joins us now. Amy, thank you very much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And congrats.
Thanks.
Congrats.
There is so much in this book that you open up about, and I want to get to a lot of it, but I want to start with the key message here, which is just that learning can be fun, learning makes you powerful, it can be a joy. Talk about what you want people to take away on that front.
Yeah, I had so many people after I was on Jeopardy asking me, like, how do you know all that stuff? And when I thought it through, I realized that it was just because I was raised to love knowing stuff and to be curious about the world, and that I also happen to have the sort of memory that, like, kind of trivia facts stick in my mind. So, like, I was lucky in that sense that skill set applied to Jeopardy. But even apart from that, I think I've gotten so much value out of just having that curiosity to openness and understanding the world better and ultimately myself. And that's something that I think anybody can benefit from, whether or not they're going to, like, remember the capital of Liechtenstein or whatever. But being open and curious, I think, is brought me so many benefits.
What is the capital of Liechtenstein?
Vaduz.
But also, like, the key thing is being willing to be wrong and actually being open to being wrong and liking being wrong. Like you write, and this is very unique in the beginning of this book, that you hope to disagree in the future with what you're writing right now, what the reader is reading.
Right.
Talk to me about that philosophy, that approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I feel like I should always look back on myself in the past and think, boy, I was dumb back then. Because if I don't think that, then I haven't gotten any smarter since.
Yeah.
And so, and I do. Like, I know that I've evolved on all my beliefs on a lot of things over the years, and I look back at times at things I used to believe, and I don't agree with that anymore. And if that was the case then it's reasonable to think that there's something I believe now that in the future I'm going to disagree with. So I just wanted to partly just, like, cover myself in for...
Because there's a lot of topics in this book.
I'll say, but
dive in.
I like how you did every chapter with a question. Chapter 2, when did you know you were trans? And I'm wondering, did you have to have a whole thought process before deciding to go on Jeopardy? Because you are exposing yourself to the whole world in a very different way.
Yeah.
Was that something that was a tough decision?
It was. I'd wanted to be on Jeopardy kind of like my whole life. I grew up watching with my parents. But then, when I came out as trans, it definitely made me reconsider for a while because trans people can become targets, and I've seen that happen to people, and it was kind of scary to be exposed in that way.
But what did you think it was when you were growing up, Amy? What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the 80s and 90s in Ohio, trans person was not a concept that me or anybody in my community knew about. And so it wasn't something I could imagine being. And so when I was a kid, more or less, what I figured was all the other little boys probably wish that they were girls too and are jealous of them and wish they could wear pretty things and all of that. And we're all just not allowed to say that, so we're all hiding it. But probably everybody else feels the same way I do.
And there's nobody you can talk to really about it.
Right.
True.
Because that is, I mean, and also, that is a thing, like, it's so strict in our society that men cannot do anything girly or talk about it.
That's changing, I hope.
Yeah, I think so. But that definitely, made it easy to believe that everyone else was secretly thinking those things.
Yes.
I feel like most people can't differentiate knowing something and understanding something. And those are two things that you write about. You know yourself. What do you understand about yourself now versus, let's say, 20 years ago?
I mean, I think, again, first thing, that I'm a woman. Took me a long time to understand that. But beyond that, once I started living kind of more authentically, I learned a lot more. I learned that I am, like, kind of an extrovert and social. And I learned that I'm a lot more, once I started allowing myself to be authentic, I could connect with other people so much better. And I learned that, I'm really interested in getting to know people in a way that I was always kind of frightened of forming those connections before.
You were many things, but many things you didn't appear to be was nervous when you were on Jeopardy. You always seemed so calm, so in control. Were you feeling that?
No, I was definitely nervous most of the time, yeah. But, I wanted, first of all, I'm a performer. I was a theater kid my whole life, and I wanted to look good on TV. And I also didn't want my other contestants to know if I was feeling nervous.
Poker face, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you think you would have that long of a run? Did you think, I got this game, because you'd played it for so long?
No, I mean, I thought I could be good. I told all my friends, I was like, if things go my way, I could win. I could see myself winning 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was, legitimately about the most I expected.
But hold on, I don't want people to think this is just an earnest book about learning and knowing. It is that, but it's also a very frank and honest conversation about drug use, about polyamorous relationships. I mean, you get into you get tarot card reading,
Amy
belief
goes,
in God. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Were there things in the book, and we only have about 30 more seconds, that you were like, ooh, I don't want to put that in?
No, because I felt an obligation to give an authentic representation of myself as a trans person, because I know to many people I represent that community.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give a full picture.
Yeah, and that's why you didn't wrestle with, do I have a story? You have a story, and it matters. You have a platform as well. Amy Schneider, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Jason Reynolds joins us now. Jason, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so there was a party for Langston, which, by the way, it's beautifully drawn, it's beautifully told, it's a fantastic book. Speaking as a father of 4, this is very readable. It's inspired by a picture you saw of some authors celebrating Langston in 1991. Who's in the picture and what was going on?
So there's, in the picture taken by Chester Higgins Jr., 1991, the Schomburg Library here in New York City was dedicating a space in the library, in the lobby, for Langston Hughes, dedicating it to Langston Hughes. And everyone comes to this party to celebrate, and this sort of memorial. And Maya Angelou, the great Maya Angelou is there. Amiri Baraka, the great Amiri Baraka, one of the leaders of the Black Arts Movement, is there. And they're dancing, but they're dancing on the ashes. So underneath the floor are the ashes of Langston Hughes.
Whoa.
And so they're dancing to their hero, celebrating their hero, their idol, in that space.
Wow.
And you saw the dancing and you thought, what did that do for you?
When I saw the dancing, what it did for me is say, like, wow, my heroes were human.
Yeah.
Right? My heroes didn't just sit and write and ponder and be moody. And
So you like to see them doing something outside of writing?
I like to see them having fun, living their lives, being joyous, and it meant the world to me.
Also that it's set in the library, I think, is interesting. Are you
Yeah.
trying to make a point about the library? Now, it's so funny, Jason, because I was in Brooklyn at the library looking at Jay-Z's exhibit, which I say run, don't walk to see this. It's amazing. But I hadn't been in a library in a gazillion years, and I thought, this is such a cool place.
Absolutely.
Is that part of the message you're trying to send here, too?
It is. I want to use these historical figures and this historical moment as a vehicle to allow kids to believe that the library is actually a romper room. The library is a place for adventure and dancing and partying and joy and laughter and community, right? That it's all those things, not just a place where you go to be quiet to study.
Because they don't think a library is a cool place.
But they should.
They should.
They should. Why?
It's a place of growth.
Yeah.
It's a place for freedom, right? What you're witnessing in that photograph is freedom, right? And imagine if we could let young people know that this is where you can get free. Physically free, emotionally free, and mentally free.
Yeah. You've created successful books in the past, but you say this is the most incredible piece of work that you've done. Why so?
I've never been more proud. One, because this is the most difficult book I've ever had to make. It's very hard to take a big, big thing and make it very, very small and still allow it to be nuanced and sophisticated for our young people. This is very difficult to do. The economy of language is very different in this particular space because you're only using a few words. And I have to be clear that if it wasn't for the Pumphrey brothers who did the illustrations to help elevate it even more, I don't know if it would be the masterpiece that I believe it to be.
But you don't call them writers, you call them word makers in the book. And you say poetry is its own language. Why do you use the phrase word makers?
I think that when we talk about making something, we're talking about the creation. Usually when we say it, we're talking about the creation of a tangible thing. To me, language is a tangible thing. It leads to the tangible nature of our lives, right? James Baldwin, the famous, great James Baldwin says, the interior life is the real life, and the intangible dreams of a person can have a tangible effect on the world, right? And so making words means that you can make a world. And that's what I want them to understand.
And people making words helped you make worlds with your words, right? You started writing poetry at 9 years old. How did Langston Hughes, and Maya Angelou, these writers you're writing about here, how did they influence what you're doing with your life?
I mean, and tremendously. Langston Hughes was the first poet that I read, and the language felt so eye level that it felt like it could be mine. And he was using the slang of his time, which meant that I could use the slang of mine. Maya Angelou, everybody loved Maya Angelou. I met her, I saw her, I didn't meet her. I saw her in person, and I could feel whatever that was on her pushing me me back in the seat.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever that is, comes
That
from
energy,
words,
that
right?
aura.
That energy, that aura. And Amiri Baraka, I was fortunate enough to be around him many, many times. And he's the one who gave me a sense of freedom. I could use sounds in my words. I could use onomatopoeia and be loose like he was and use it as if it were all like percussive, right? Make poetry percussive.
You know,
he made me feel that way.
This is the other thing about you, because like what you said, you like to see writers do something other than write. Yeah. Looking at you, who would think that you crochet? But that's what you do.
No.
You crochet.
That's what I used to do. When I was young, I learned to crochet. I always was trying to be fly. Couldn't find the hats and the things that I wanted. So my mom's friend taught me to crochet when I was a young person, and I did that all the way through school. And I always had on matching this, that, and the third.
And crochet.
But it taught me patience, and it taught me discipline, and it taught me to pay attention to detail. Because if you drop a stitch, you ruin the thing you're making. Much like when you're writing a story, much like when you're managing relationships, all of it is the same.
So crochet, in a way, taught you about writing.
Crochet definitely taught me about writing.
What advice do you give to young people out there that want to tap into this field?
You know, my biggest piece of advice is that one of the greatest ways to get into writing and learn to love it and be good at it is to learn yourself. This is an exercise of self-awareness and really, it's internal work, right? And I am spending all of my life trying to better know Jason. And every time I write a book, it is whatever version of that that I've dealt with is now coming out on the page, and hopefully the books get better and better as I continue to refine who I am as a person.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah, beautiful line here. Once 16, once 5, once 3, once nobody, now me. It's a great book.
I love when you come here, Jason.
Jason Reynolds,
Yes.
He's a great talker as well. Great writer and great talker. Thank you very much for being here.
This morning, we're talking to the Breasties. Have you heard of these guys? A community providing resources and support to survivors and those affected by breast cancer and gynecological cancers. Co-founder, her name is Paige Moore. She shared photos on her Instagram when she underwent a preventative double mastectomy at the age of 24 after discovering that she carried the BRCA1 gene mutation. Chief Community Officer, that's Trish Michelle, was 37 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer and found support sharing her journey. And Dr. Elizabeth Potter, last but certainly not least, worked with the Breasties to reverse a government decision to limit procedure options for survivors after mastectomy. Good morning to all of you guys. We're so glad you're here. Paige, I got to start with you because first tell us the background behind the name Breasties. I like it. And why you decided you needed to form this. What were you looking for?
Well, the Breasties came from best friend, but breast friend, obviously.
Like it.
And just wanted it to be, relatable for all. And when I was first looking for support, I went online and really couldn't find a story that I resonated with. I wanted to find somebody that felt empowered, that felt positive, not too positive, but just enough, somebody that...
Because it's hard to feel positive when you get this kind of diagnosis.
It really is, but I needed that sliver of hope that I was going to be okay and that I could love my life and my body after this experience, and I couldn't find it. And so I felt like if I can't find it, then I have to create it.
And that's exactly what you did. And Trish, how did you two get together? Because you went online, right?
I know. The doctors always say don't Google.
Yes.
But I Googled.
In this case,
I
definitely
Googled, and Google took me right to social media because she was so vulnerable and sharing her story openly, it allowed folks to connect with each other, and that's how I connected with her.
But your backstory is you're 37, no history of breast cancer in your family, none.
None.
And then
whatsoever.
you get this diagnosis. That must have been shocking and devastating.
Well, absolutely. I had a physical, passed with flying colors, and then 2 weeks later, I found my lump. And when I found my lump, I said, oh no. Immediately I knew it was, I knew it was cancer.
And you said the concerns were dismissed.
Absolutely.
You knew it was cancer?
I knew, I just had in my gut, something was off. So I felt it was cancer. And my doctor gave me resistance. He was dismissive of me.
How did that make you feel? This is supposed to be your doctor, someone who identifies when you're going through something.
We're supposed to be on the same team. And so I felt like, yes, we were adversaries, right?
Dismissive how?
Adversary.
Yeah, well, because you're 37.
No history.
You have no history, just go live your life and come back. And so I said, Doc, I'm telling you I felt something. So literally I had to take his hand, my hand over his, and direct him to the lump.
Wow.
And even still then, he was like, and I said, Doc, either you give me this mammogram script or I'm gonna just go get it someplace else, but I'm going to get this mammogram.
Wow.
Dr. Potter, Trish is only 37 years old.
Yeah.
That's a young woman in my book. What do you say to the trend lines here, which are very concerning? There's someone close to me same age recently, is in that stage where they're a pre-Viver, I think, as you guys would put it.
Yeah.
Why are the numbers going up among young women?
That is the million-dollar question, and I think the most important thing to know is that they are going up. We are seeing more and more diagnoses of breast cancer, and just like Trish said, we need to be listening to patients. We need to be screening more, looking harder, and being more thoughtful about preventing breast cancer and diagnosing it early.
And isn't it going up among Black women?
This is the tragedy.
Younger Black women?
40 years ago, the lines were very equal, white women and Black women. But when things got better with better screening and better drugs, they did not get better equally. They did not get better equally. And we are in a crisis in breast reconstruction and breast cancer treatment where we now have to really engage and be honest about that conversation. That's why I love the breasties. And say, it's not equal. We have to do better by Black women because they are dying at a higher rate.
Paige, I'm in awe of you because you made the decision to have a preemptive mastectomy at the age of 24. What went into your thinking then, and what do you say to others who are maybe facing that decision right now?
My oncologist said to me when I was 24 years old, you have a choice. We can either do surveillance for the rest of your life, or you can take preventative action. And I knew I didn't want to wait for cancer to come because that's what you're essentially doing, in my opinion. I'm waiting if I'm doing surveillance, and then we're going to take action. I knew at 24 years old that I had everything I needed to take action at that point. I had a stable job at the time. I had a supportive partner. I had great friends and family at the time. I had insurance coverage. I knew that I was ready to make that choice. But it's a huge life-changing decision.
Yeah, and you didn't want to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. How old are you now?
I'm now 31.
31.
It was the best decision that I made. I now no longer feel like every single day, am I going to get breast cancer? And that's a huge gift that I was able to give myself and a huge privilege.
And Trish, what is your message today and how have the breasties helped you? Because I'm still in awe of your story as well with no family history. And here you are.
It just shows the importance of community, I think, because we are socialized to play small, play quiet, don't push against those in charge, whether it's your doctor or what have you. And so finding community, it helps you to find your voice. So I'm able to, sorry, Doc, but I come into those doctor's appointments ready for battle because unfortunately, sometimes you have to fight against, what your doctor thinks is best because you know your body.
As men, how can we better serve, be allies, be advocates for you, whether father, brother, friend, coworker? What can we do?
That is such a great question, and I love it when I see a partner walk into a room just listening and saying, how can I support? How can I be present? How can we plan for the future together? Let's all be hopeful together. What do you need? I'm here for you. This is a time to listen and respond and take action. That is, even asking that question, you are light years ahead.
Yeah, they are both very evolved men. How do we get with the breasties? If people are looking, guys, what do we do?
Social media, we're definitely the Breasties on Instagram, on Facebook, and thebreasties.org.
Yeah, thebreasties.org and our app. We have a free app. Everything that we do is free. We believe in access for all, and so that's really important to us.
Very awesome. Very good. Paige, Trish, Dr. Potter, thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it.